All right, everybody. Who do we have here in the chat? Go ahead and jump down in there, guys. Tell me where you're tuning in from. But listen, it's 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. So if you're joining me, I'm excited to have you here. So, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk the top 5 most impactful transfers that I believe for the Oklahoma Sooners. And then we're going to talk about this junior day that's coming up here on March 4th because you're going to start seeing guys get into town. I would assume either late Friday night or early Saturday for this early junior day visit. We got to kind of talk about it and break it down. But I want you guys to be in the chat. I want you guys to be involved. Additionally, you guys got to hit that like and the subscribe button. Tell me what you were thinking because listen, we're going to start out at 1 and work our way down to 5 on those transfer lists. Number 5 is left open. And I left it open because we're going to fill in the blank with what you guys think. So, going in to the top 5 most impactful transfers for the Oklahoma Sooners in 2023. And I think you have to start off with the obvious, Dason McCullough. Because if you looked at what he did in his true freshman year, the 6'3", 235-pound or 230-pound linebacker, he was an absolute monster. Easily one of the more coveted kids in the portal this year. He really could have went to any school he wanted to. 48 total tackles, 30 solo tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. I see the staff using the cheetah a little bit differently this year than what we saw it last year. And I see Dason kind of playing that linebacker defensive end role where you'll probably see Reggie Pearson play that linebacker secondary role. So depending on who you're playing, depending on what kind of scheme you need to be in, that's kind of how you might see the cheetah position used. And so, yeah, Dason McCullough, he's going to be great. And I don't think Oklahoma Sooner fans are going to look back on this take to the transfer portal and be disappointed. And yes, I am assuming he's going to be at the cheetah because he just looks like he's the most fit for it. So on number 2 on this list, I have Walter Rouse. And it's because we had Caden Green come in this recruiting class. And I really thought Caden Green was going to be the answer at that left tackle position because, you were really unsure of what was going to be in the portal. Well, Walter hits the portal. Looks like he committed to Nebraska. But in the 11th hour, Oklahoma, they pull off some just Sooner magic on the recruiting trail and flip just an incredibly important player to this offense. When you think about Dylan Gabriel being a left-handed quarterback, and then all you lost on that left side of the offensive line with Wanye Morris and Anton Harrison, which, guys, Anton Harrison, he's going to tear it up. He's going to tear it up. So be watching. Maybe he'll end up on the Chiefs and be playing with Creed Humphrey and Orlando Brown. One can only hope. But talking about Walter Rouse, 39 starts in 40 career games, 2,552 snaps, 41 QB hurries, 14 QB hits, 13 sacks. That's all that he is allowed in his career. So in 2,552 snaps, he's only allowed 41 QB hurries, 14 QB hits, and 13 sacks. It's pretty damn good, if I have to say so myself. I mean, it's better than what I can do. And you can imagine that with the step up in competition from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, now it's not a huge step up, but it's a step up because he's going to have to play better defensive lines, and that's potentially going to help him being, of course, being coached by one of the best offensive linemen in the country, or offensive line coaches in the country, maybe even one of the best, I would say, developers in the country. You would expect in one season that Walter is going to increase his draft stock, that maybe where he could have been maybe a 6th or 5th round pick, maybe he ends up being a 3rd or 2nd day pick, depending on kind of how he looks this year protecting Dylan Gabriel, which, by the way, I think people are undervaluing how important it is to have experienced guys on that left side, with Dylan Gabriel being a left-handed quarterback. Just saying. So going into number 3, I've got Rondell Bothroyd, an experienced player that Oklahoma really needed on the defensive line, especially after you're losing, Jeffrey Johnson and Jalen Redmond, 2 defensive players that, let's be honest, if they had another year at Oklahoma, I think Jalen Redmond did, but if they would have been able to stay or actually stayed another year, you're talking about two defensive linemen that really, I think, could have led this team and really been a force to be reckoned with. But Rondell Bothroyd comes from Wake Forest. We've had him here on the podcast, and and he blatantly said it. I entered the transfer portal because I wasn't getting the looks at Wake Forest. So he comes to Oklahoma because, well, a common opponent that he had to watch on the sidelines was Brent Venables. And he saw how Brent Venables coached that defense and how he helped work that defensive line. And he wanted to come be a part of it. And when you look at his production in his college career, 136 total tackles, 68 solo tackles, 31 tackles for loss, 15 and a half sacks, and then you have 4 forced fumbles. Rondell Bothroyd was a force at Wake Forest. And you can imagine him in this scheme with Brent Venables and all the other talent around him, he's probably going to flourish. And when you look at starters on that defensive line, Rondell Bothroyd's probably going to be one of them. Now, I'm not going to lie. The defensive ends this year, those people, yeah, I'm really interested in that room. But the defensive line, you really want to see what you're going to get out of those interior guys. Do they move Reggie Grimes and Ethan Downs into the interior? I've seen a lot of you guys not only comment that here, but on other people's streams that you want to see Ethan Downs and Reggie Grimes move into the interior. And I 100% agree with you. I think Reggie Grimes is big enough to play that position, maybe put on a couple more pounds. I think I heard that Ethan Downs was at 280, but so maybe he needs to put on probably another 20. But those guys, I think, would excel there, especially now that you're going to have Jonah Laulu back for the senior season. And by the way, he really started to pick it up late in the season. And we've had him here too. And another thing he said, problem with the defensive ends last year was, they played a lot of good quarterbacks that knew how to get the ball out quickly. And so it was just like a second too late or a millisecond too late to getting to the quarterback. So yeah, Sean, I see what you said are saying here. Grimes had a bad season. He had a good start to the season. And ultimately, I know there were some personal things I think that he was going through. And so I don't want to indict him for, falling off of a cliff because I think that's not who Grimes is. And I don't think that's the Grimes we're going to see this next season because Grimes is a dog. He'll go out there and, he'll chase the quarterback around. And we saw that all year last year. He was chasing quarterbacks around left and right. So on number 4 on this list, though, because we'll get back to talking about defensive lines later. Number 4 on this list, I've got Austin Stogner. And it's because he's a former Oklahoma player, right? He is here. He left after the old regime left. He went to South Carolina, played with his buddy Spencer Rattler and Shane Beamer, which, by the way, I still to this day think that was the best move for Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner in their careers, because you go out there and you play for the coach that really coached you guys the best that 1 year before he ended up leaving for that job. Getting him back, getting that experience, especially with losing Braden Willis, I think a lot of people overlook how important that tight end role was going to be for us this upcoming season, especially with how Lebby likes to use tight ends. Now, I am going to be curious because we talked about it the other day on Around the Table Sports. That's Ty over there. If you guys haven't seen it, you need to go check it out. I was on there with Drew, Jay, and I believe Chris even came on. And one of the things we talked about was that tight end room is going to be interesting because, yes, you have Stogner, who is an experienced guy. He's tall. He can go out there and make those catches. But you've also got some younger guys in there. And so how is Lebby going to use it? And we've seen Lebby before utilize 2 tight ends. And so it's going to be I'm interested. And we all got to watch it. That tight end room didn't lose Jackson Sumlin to the transfer portal this year. But I don't really think that was going to be a big miss as he wasn't really ever seeing the field anyways. So number 5, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Number 5, I'm leaving up to you guys. So I want you guys to jump in the comments. Tell me who you guys think the 5th most impactful transfer is. And Hank kind of talked about it up here earlier. I saw him comment this one before the show started. He said, hopefully Reggie Pearson will cause a few career decisions in the secondary And the running back, I can never remember the name, will knock a couple linebackers out next season. So the running back he's talking about is Emeka Megwa, I think it is. If Jay was here, he could tell you all about him because Jay loves that kid. Reggie Pearson. Yeah, Keaton, I see it down here too. The DB from Tech. Yeah, that's Reggie Pearson, which, by the way, we have an interview coming out with Reggie Pearson tomorrow, so y'all want to check that one out. And we just did one with Drew Woodaz. He's the 3-star linebacker that Brent Venables has been recruiting even back to his time at Clemson. He got his brother out there too. So you guys want to go check that one out after this is done. But Reggie Pearson, yes, he is able to go out there and make big plays on the defensive side of the ball, make big hits. I mean, we all watched him in the Texas Tech game, completely just lay out Dillon Gabriel. And that's actually a question we asked him. So you guys will have to tune in and find out if he's actually talked to Dillon Gabriel about that hit. But again, I think Reggie Pearson will potentially play a little bit of that cheetah role. And in fact, he even talked about it in the interview, how he's been kind of training in that role a little bit. So I think you'll probably see him there playing a little bit of the secondary when he needs to. So again, I think it's going to depend on scheme, kind of who plays in that cheetah role that day. So it's something that we all need to keep our eyes on. Sean, you say Caleb Schaefer will start over Matire. Ooh, hot take there. I think Schaefer starts. Does he start over Cade, though? Or do they move him around? Or do they move Cade around? I don't know. That's an interesting one. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. Because there are two spots on this offensive line that are open right now. Because I can't remember who was it. It was was it Jacob Sexton that got hurt in the bowl game? Or it was one of the two that got hurt in the bowl game. Josh, you're talking about the Notre Dame defensive line transfer, Jacob Lacey. Yeah, so I actually kind of went back and forth on putting Jacob Lacey on this list. And I ended up not putting him on the list because I really haven't seen much from I just totally blanked on his name. I haven't seen much from him, right? Jacob Lacey. And so statistically, it's not there for me to put him up there. But I mean, definitely the upside is all there. I saw one up here earlier. Topher, Andrell Anthony. Yes. Okay. So this is another one kind of just like Jacob Lacey, where it's okay. He's got some stats, but they're not like starting consistent stats. And so, yeah, like when you go look at his intangibles and how fast Andrell Anthony is, he's going to be a target for Dillon Gabriel. But how important will he be in that offense? Because I believe wide receiver 1 is Jalil Farouk. You would believe wide receiver 2 is Drake Stoops. Who's wide receiver 3? Is it Andrell Anthony? Is it LV Bunkley Shelton? Is it JJ Hester? Is it Jaden Gibson? Nick Anderson? DJ Graham? Because I think a lot of people forget DJ Graham is a wide receiver now. You even got Brandon Harper on the offense this year, which I don't know if he plays wide receiver this year. I could see him being in the second on the special teams, maybe returning kicks. Again, really athletic kid. He's got a lot of speed to him. And he's a fan favorite with you guys. I mean, we've seen you guys jump in the Twitter mentions and definitely pulled this guy up a lot. So hope Gibson can catch. Jaden Gibson. Listen, I think Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson will be able to catch. I think, being a whole year into the system, into a college system, I think they'll have developed a little bit better. And worst comes to worst, you're throwing a 6'6" or something dude out there. I mean, now listen, I'll take those odds any day. Putting a taller guy out there on a lot of DBs in college football. So anyways, continue to jump in the comments below and let me know what y'all's number 5 most impactful player is for the Oklahoma Sooners. And we might talk about it again here at the end of the show. But I want to talk about this junior day that's coming up, guys, because I'm excited. All right, wait, hold on. Are you guys excited? Because I'm stoked. I'm stoked. So looking at this junior day, there are some stars. Now, we're not going to break down the whole list because some of that is on OU Insider And so you guys know you have to pay for some of those nuggets. But we're going to talk about some of the guys and some of the guys that Wilfong's been talking about and some of the guys all over Twitter. We're going to kind of look at them. Yeah, yep, Topher, I'm expecting the same thing. I'm expecting maybe 1 or 2 silent commits this weekend. I might even be expecting a commitment out of this weekend, but we'll talk about that one here in just a minute. Let's start off with the 5-star guys, because there are 2 guys in particular that their names have been thrown around, and I think they're important. And the first one is 5-star cornerback Kobe Black, which for OU to go out there and land 2 5-stars in the secondary in 2 years, when was the last time that happened? Maybe you guys could tell me. I can't tell you the last time OU landed 2 5-star defensive backs in 2 straight years. I'll wait. But yes, Kobe Black, the number 15th overall player in the 247 composite. Listen, I thought this for a long time, that this was Oklahoma State's race to lose. His older brother, Corey Black, is a cornerback at Oklahoma State. It felt like Oklahoma State for a long time has had a really good opportunity there because Kobe Black's familiar with Oklahoma State. I really don't think Gundy wants that job out there. Do you guys? Because I know of another recruit that he's really not recruiting very hard, actually at all. And yeah, but 5-star cornerback Kobe Black, there's going to be a need at that position. Yes, Oklahoma took a lot of cornerbacks this year. You had Kendall Dolby, Josiah Wagner. I know you took Peyton Bowen at the safety. I know he can play cornerback as well. We took some other guys. But I would expect you're going to have I don't know if Key Lawrence is going to be playing corner or safety this year, but Key Lawrence is gone. You're going to have Woody Washington's going to be gone. And I think you'll have a couple others that are gone. And so I think you're going to have to, you're going to have to replace them. Getting a 5-star in Kobe Black into this program in a year where you need to turn it over and you need to be able to have elite talent to compete in the SEC, this would be huge. So we'll have to keep an eye out on the Twitters and see if Kobe Black drops the little pin and he is in Norman, Oklahoma. Additionally, another guy that I'm excited again to see, does he end up here at OU, was Micah Hudson. So for those of you who were not aware, Micah Hudson was supposed to attend the January 28th Junior Day. It was January 28th, right? January 28th Junior Day. The number 6th overall player in the country, the number 2 wide receiver in the country. And he and Kobe ended up going to Texas A&M. Now, they had plans to potentially come back for this Junior Day. That's what everybody was told. That was the rumors that was circulating. I haven't seen anything confirmed. I haven't heard anything confirmed. So, again, this is going to be like the Kobe Black situation. We will have to keep an eye out for that little pin that says Norman, Oklahoma, where he says, I'm here, or visiting, or whatever it says. But Micah Hudson, 5-star wide receiver, I think actually Oklahoma might have a decent shot here because Micah Hudson is a guy that has ties, has ties. He has a relationship with Emma Jones. And I know a lot of people were kind of really worried, or I wouldn't say worried, but skeptical of this hire that Oklahoma made. But let me break it down for you. He went to Texas Tech 3 times. He's been to Oklahoma twice. At least that's what it's showing on the On3 database. Meaning, he's met Emmett Jones 3 times. He's met Jeff Lebby twice. So technically, Oklahoma now has 5 visits because Emmett Jones is on this staff. And so you can carry that relationship over. And so Oklahoma, I think, jumps Texas Tech right there. But Chris Jackson out there at Texas, listen, that's going to be difficult to recruit over. But ultimately, we talked about it in my prediction videos. I really said that, Micah Hudson, I thought was a guy that maybe could be a Sooner and someone that we definitely had to keep a lookout. I didn't predict him to land here, but I said it's a guy you really have to pay attention to, a guy that Oklahoma might be able to go out there and land. And looking at some of the other 5 stars, obviously everybody has heard about Williams Nwaneri being here. And I hope I said that right. Williams Nwaneri or Nwaneri. Just can't get it there. Just can't get it to roll with the tongue. Number 9 overall player in this class, according to the 247 composite out of Lee Summit North. It's important because you got Caden Green from that school. And then you have Isaiah Mosey out there in 2025, the receiver. At 6'5", 245 pounds, I mean, I think Williams Nwaneri could help really shape up that defensive line. And I want everybody to imagine something for a second. Imagine a defensive line with David Stone, Zadavian Sims, Williams Nwaneri, and PJ Adebawore. Not to mention, I think Oklahoma gets Nigel Smith in this class, who also could be a 5-star. You're telling me Oklahoma has a potential chance to land 3 5-star defensive linemen in one class. When was the last time we've ever uttered those words? I think it's pretty interesting. But yeah, no, I do think Nigel Smith ends up in this class. Not as sold on Williams Nwaneri yet, but I have heard good things from some people that are close to him. So another recruitment that we'll have to keep an eye on and kind of keep an eye out for how that recruitment's going at the end of the visit. But 5-star defensive lineman Edric Houston is also going to be in town. Their top 10 guy, 6'3", 255 pound. I'm not 100% sure, how much this staff is really pursuing Houston, because I haven't really heard much about that before. You see Nick Eason and Clipson out there really recruiting for him. And I'm sorry if you guys hear the little dog back there. I got her tonight because Gately has to work tomorrow, so she has to stay here. Hey, cut it out. But yeah, talking about Edric Houston. So I think Nick Eason will definitely have an opportunity there to be able to go out there and land the 5-star. Obviously, Alabama's going to be in it. Georgia will probably be in it because, well, he's from Georgia. I've even seen Clemson potentially getting a visit here for Edric Houston. So Edric Houston's going to be interesting. I'm not counting my buckets on this one. It's not something that I'm going to rely on. I don't think it's anything you guys need to rely on. And so kind of going into the 4 stars a little bit. Man, I'm seeing you guys blowing up the chat here. Talking about the 4 stars here. Michael Hawkins. So, oh boy. Guys, I'm tired of quarterback drama in Oklahoma, whether it's on the recruiting trail or whether it's quarterbacks leaving Oklahoma to go out west or go to another school. No, so you hear Michael Hawkins is going to be here this weekend. Of course, he's here for another big junior day for Oklahoma, a big visit weekend. And you would expect that there's got to be something to that, right? Being at Oklahoma during all these big recruiting weekends, you would imagine there's got to be something there. There's, in my mind, you don't go somewhere during all of their big recruiting weekends and then not go to that school. I mean, am I crazy to think that way? And, Brandon Drum always talks all the time about, follow the unofficial visits, right? And, that's something that, I think we've all done. We followed the unofficial visits for him. And, yeah, he has a great relationship with Kendall Briles, obviously shown because Kendall Briles and TCU moved on from their quarterback and continued to pursue Hawkins. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, Keaton, I understand what you're saying. You don't have a good feeling about Hawkins. I've had my days where I don't have a good feeling about Hawkins either. But you know what? Ultimately, hearing that he's coming back to these visits, coming back to campus, that he's still in contact frequently with the staff, I don't think that I mean, I start to feel better about that situation and OU getting their quarterback of the future here. And so if Ted Roof leaves. OU, Brandon Hall will be the next defensive coordinator, OU. So this is an interesting topic. You know what? I'm going to start this, and we're going to save this for later because of the Jim Leonhard conversation. We'll talk about that here at the end. So, okay, diving into the other 4 stars. Offensive lineman, Grant Bricks. Listen, guys, we talked to him. We're working on getting him here on the podcast for an interview. So stay tuned for that one. It's going to be a battle, I think, between, Iowa, Ohio State, Penn State, some of those schools up there in the north. Wide receiver, Xavier Jordan. He's a 4-star to 2, according to 247. He's not a composite ranked, I don't think. Defensive lineman, Kellen Lindstrom. Now, this one actually intrigued me a little bit because I saw this one come out tonight. 4-star safety, Travarius Banks, out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I can imagine with him being from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, winning that battle over for Oklahoma to go out there and win that battle on the recruiting trail, I feel like would be hard. Right? I mean, it's Alabama. It's Tuscaloosa. The 6'1", 190-pound guy out of Northridge High School. I mean, listen, I've watched a little bit of his huddle film. I mean, the dude's got it. And it says here on his scouting report that he played 2-way snaps as a junior. Just, I think he's going to be taking an official visit to Tennessee on June 16th. So that's something to potentially keep in mind and keep a watch out. But yeah, I thought this was interesting coming out of the woodworks. 123 ranked player in terms of the 247 composite. You got Travarius Robinson at Alabama recruiting him. And then Tim Banks and Willie Martinez at Tennessee, which, by the way, Tennessee is really hot on the recruiting trail. Really shocking what Josh Heupel is able to do down there. Listen, I see you guys talking about Jim Leonhard. We're going to talk about that here in a minute because that's obviously something that y'all want to talk about. So we'll get to that one here in a second. And don't mind the dog if you hear her scream. She's drama. She's dramatic. 3-star edge, Caleb Red, defensive lineman, TJ Lindsey, and 2 brothers, actually. Tycool Hill Lumen, and then defensive end, or they're both defensive ends, Tycleen Lumen. They'll both be here as well. So actually, Parker mentioned something interesting yesterday on their live stream, which I was able to catch a little bit of that one. I haven't actually gone back and actually listened to it yet. Probably do that tonight while I'm in the shower. But yeah, if Oklahoma takes those 2, you would imagine that defensive line room really starts to narrow really quickly. Now, obviously, if a 5-star wants to come here, then, you're going to take them. But I would assume if you take both of those guys, Zena Yumio Zulu is out, which former teammate with Michael Hawkins and Devon Mitchell, which I was kind of thinking, hey, if you land Michael Hawkins, maybe you land Zena. It'll be something to keep an eye on. The Lumen brothers. And then linebacker Michael Baganowski, 500 ranked player out of Junction City, Kansas. Again, another Kansas or Missouri player that this staff is going up there in recruiting. Some unranked guys in the composite rankings. Wide receiver Kelly Daniels. Running back Xavier Robinson, a guy that you guys have made sure to talk about many times here on the podcast and on everybody else's podcast. So we get it. You guys love Xavier Robinson out here from Carl Albert High School. Running back Jazari Spencer, offensive tackle Bennett Warren, offensive lineman Harrison Utley out of Norman North. So those are just some of the Elite Junior Day visitors or potential Elite Junior Day visitors from March 4th. Guys, go ahead and tell me, who do you think the Oklahoma Sooners land? Do you guys think Oklahoma gets a commitment out of this Elite Junior Day? I'd be curious to hear. Okay, Jimmy, you're asking for some David Stone news. We'll talk. Okay, you know what? Let's talk about it because actually, I did have that article pulled up. Steve Wiltfong wrote something about it like 10 or 11 hours ago, talking about the defensive lineman and top 5 player in the country, and he said in his interview with Steve Wiltfong, there's a whole bunch of good stuff there, and I think they will be doing well soon. Stone feels the same way about Oklahoma's trajectory. The staff, obviously, they've done, well, and this is Stone speaking. The staff, obviously, they've done some amazing stuff in the past, Stone said. I feel like they've got experience to win national championships. A defensive lineman talking about winning national championships at Oklahoma, obviously that history. And so, you read through this article. Again, you guys need to go be a VIP member to read through the whole thing. Um, it sounds good for Oklahoma, right? And he makes to mention that Stone Sisters here. The same thing that Brandon Drum has said numerous times, which is I'm there all the time when I'm back home. I chill with the players sometimes, right? And that's not anything new. We've heard that from Brandon Drum many times. So I still believe the David Stone stuff is really good for Oklahoma. I don't see why Oklahoma would not land David Stone. It seems like David Stone wants to be a Sooner, but listen, guys, he knows how to go out there and build his brand, and we've got to stop docking the kids for going out there and taking their visits and really exploring every option, because this is a pretty big decision in their life. And yes, I get it; they can enter the transfer portal if it's not the right one, but why would you want to go divorce your school and potentially do that to yourself and start this all over again? So, you know what? It's only it's actually March. Shoot. I'm about to be 26 here in a couple days. Dang it. I'm getting old. You guys are probably going to think that's crazy. No, yeah, I mean, these kids are making important decisions in their life. I mean, I remember moving out of my parents' house almost 8 years ago. And that's a hard decision. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can recall the decision to move out of your parents' house and go be on your own and have to go make it, right. And for me, like, it's at least it was a little easier because, hey, my parents were a couple miles down the road. But you can only imagine for a guy like David Stone, who maybe he wants to go explore his options and go to a Michigan State halfway up there. Now, I don't think that that's going to be the case, but you see guys do that all the time. They travel halfway across the country. They want to explore something new. They want to see the world. They don't want to necessarily be tied down around their parents. They want to get out of where they're at. And that's perfectly okay. But again, I don't think David Stone is going to go anywhere else. I think he'll end up being a Sooner. Again, I think that defensive line looks something similar to Nigel Smith, David Stones, Sadavian Sims, Zena Yumi Zulu, potentially Williams Winery. You're even seeing Jay Sean Ross in this conversation as well. So, yeah, listen, guys, it's you know what, I like what Larry said. There you go. These are still kids, and they get tired of adults having an opinion, talking negative for not doing what they want them to do when it's the kids' future, not the fans. Yes, and I hate it when parents put in their own input to where the kids should have to go to college. It really is. I interacted with Stone on Twitter the other day. I don't know if some of you guys caught it, but Stone said specifically, like, right now he's focusing on his mental health, not necessarily just on the recruiting side, which you can imagine being on Twitter, being a high recruiter as himself, like, yeah, it could take a toll on your mental health, especially with all these schools coming down your back. So, yeah, Stone, I don't think there's anything to worry about there. I'm hearing some Jarrett Gibson stuff. I heard Jarrett Gibson is trying to get a visit to Norman, but OU hasn't really recruited him, even though he's number one running back in the country. I mean, when you're Oklahoma and you've put yourself in the position that you have with all of these other running backs, why would you blow that opportunity to go potentially get the number one guy who has one of his best relationships with Texas? I get it would be really nice to have Jarrett Gibson as a Sooner, but when you have guys like James Peoples, Caden Durham, and those, I mean, I would even throw Stacey Gage in that conversation. And there are a couple others. You kind of got your pick from the litter. And so you can afford to miss out on the number one running back in the country. You don't have to get that guy, especially when you can potentially, because here's the thing, you land the number one running back in the country, you might not land, number 2 and 3. So what if Oklahoma could get number 3 and 4? That's really good. And so I think not getting Jarrett Gibson, I don't think is going to hurt us. I don't even think he has an offer from Oklahoma, actually. So, and I think there's actually, no, I know there's another running back going to be on campus this week. That one, I'm not going to say. You guys will have to subscribe to 247 and go look on the boards for that one. But there is another running back going to be on campus this week. So you guys will have to check that one out. Okay. So let's talk about this coach stuff because it got brought up earlier and you guys have talked about it a little bit in the chat, and I want to interact with you guys and talk to you guys about this because I made a video and 5,600 of you guys watched it, which was incredible. It was, for an OU video, that's pretty good. So let's talk about it. If Ted Riff leaves, OU Brandon Hall will be the next defensive coordinator at OU. Who will be the next defensive coordinator at OU? Because, it could be Brandon Hall. It could be Todd Bates. It could be Jim Leonard, depending on if that opportunity is there. And it could also be Bronco Mendenhall. I know that one was thrown around for a while, and that one's actually been a rumor for a while. I think dating back to Brent Venables taking the job last year. So, who do you guys want to see as a defensive coordinator? Brandon Hall, he's a great recruiter, someone that I definitely want the Oklahoma Sooners to potentially keep. I want the Oklahoma Sooners to potentially keep. Sorry, I was reading something in the chat, but if you can go out there and get an elite defensive coordinator that's proven, like Jim Leonard or even Bronco Mendenhall, which Bronco Mendenhall, for those of you who don't know, he actually runs almost the same system as Brent Venables. It's something very similar. Jim Leonard runs a slightly different. Jim Leonard likes to run a lot more blitz packages in his defense. But Jim Leonard, he's been able to develop and recruit defensive backs really well. And so, the other day in my video, I talked about how if you get Jim Leonard, imagine what the recruiting aspect of Jim Leonard will look like, because, well, if he's look at what he did at Wisconsin, and then you're at a blue blood like Oklahoma, you would imagine that Jim Leonard would be even better. So, yeah, I agree with you, Sean. Leonard is a young stud recruiter. 100% Leonard is good. And if Oklahoma got Jim Leonard, I don't think we could complain. Larry, you're saying Bronco Mendenhall. Hank, you're saying Leonard for the recruiting reach. Again, yes, recruiting reach. Because here's the other thing, and we've talked about this, and we've talked about this with players and recruits. And again, if you guys aren't tuning into my interviews, please go check those out, because I love doing those for you guys. I know a lot of you guys like them, but if you don't hit those like buttons on those and you don't comment on those, it makes it harder for me to be able to do them, because basically what happens is, guys, is, we're making money on those interviews, and then I'm taking that money, turning it around and paying players basically through the NIL program to have those guys on. So tune into those interviews, check them out, interact with them, watch them all the way through. Even if you don't watch the whole thing, just kind of let it run in the background. Help me out to be able to get you guys more of those interviews, because eventually I want to be able to get good guys on like Dylan Gabriel and Jackson Arnold, and man, wouldn't that be fun? That costs a lot of money. So anyways, yeah, Leonard for the recruiting reach. Jim Leonard, he's a guy. He's definitely a guy. And so having him here, and at least having him around the program, getting him familiar with the staff and getting him familiar with Norman, it can't hurt. It really can't. And I would expect that you're going to see Oklahoma probably take a big name at that defensive coordinator position eventually. But I don't think Roof gets fired. I think everybody wants Roof fired. Instead, I think you just need to relocate Ted Roof. So, and actually, this is not Oklahoma news, but this is actually pretty big for us because it is going to affect us at some point. Gary Patterson is not going to be the defensive coordinator or the defensive analyst, which pretty much, I believe he was a defensive coordinator there secretly behind scenes. He is stepping away from Texas, taking a break. So what happens with Gary Patterson? Is he getting a job somewhere? Because if you guys remember watching my videos early in the season, I said that Nebraska should have went after Gary Patterson. So it's going to be interesting. I think that helps Oklahoma out a lot, especially on the defensive side of the ball for Texas. Potentially won't be as good. So Gary Patterson got run off. I love it. Remember, Hall had some really good defenses when he was at Troy. Yes, he did. But Oklahoma is a big step up from Troy. It's a pretty big step up. And at least Wisconsin, right? They're having to go play Ohio State and Michigan and some of those other teams. The Big Ten is known kind of for their defense as well, kind of like the SEC. Which it's funny that they say that those schools and those conferences are known for their defense, yet they have high-scoring games. Alabama, Tennessee. Yeah, he may end up in Boulder. Listen, with how it's happening, Coach Prime could pretty much take anybody. No staff is no staff is safe at this point. Nobody on your staff is safe as long as Coach Prime is out there needing to fill up coaching and analyst spots, fixing to get hired. Oh, yeah. G. Patterson absolutely got screwed by TCU. Hey, listen, you know what? Sometimes you got to move on, right? Honestly, it was like the Bob Stoops situation. I think that was the right time for Stoops to step away. I think it was time for Oklahoma to get something different, because I think after a while, you get complacent. And I'm not saying that's what happened to Bob, but I think there is a little bit of complacency for these programs and for some of these coaches. And so sometimes refreshing your coach every 20, 30 years after a lot of success, like sometimes it's needed. And so, yeah, I mean, Gary Patterson, he was incredible for TCU. And I think, it was probably the right move. It worked out. I mean, you're right, Dominic. It worked out for TCU. They got Sonny Dykes, and they ended up in the national championship. Now, they might have got steamrolled in the national championship by Georgia, but at least they made it. I mean, shoot, we would have loved to have made it. Oklahoma fans would have loved to have been in the national championship and at least lost, because at least we would have gotten there and our recruiting would have went up, because it would have been like, all right, we just need you to win it. We don't need you to get there. We need you to win it. So, but PG, what do we think if Patterson goes to USC? Hank, why would you say that? Why would you say that? We do not speak this bad juju during these streams or conversations. We do not speak this juju about him going to USC. That's not a conversation. Lincoln Riley doesn't like defense. He is allergic to it, so he's not going to go out there and hire Gary Patterson as his defensive coordinator. That's no. We're just not even going to speak that into existence. Stoops got to go out on his own terms. Patterson essentially got fired mid-season. Yeah, I mean, Keaton, again, I understand what you're saying, but again, I don't think TCU was really, I think they were on the downtrend with Gary Patterson. I don't think that they were going to go to the national championship with him. And I think they needed a new look, especially when offense is taking over the game. So I could see Patterson going to USC. He's very close to the Riley family. Guys, stop talking about Gary Patterson to USC. We don't want this to happen. I don't want to have to make a video talking about how Lincoln Riley has found a path to the national championship, because we have sat here and crucified this man for months and months. And I don't want to have to talk about this guy going to the national championship. I don't want to do it. I know, Hank, it's all possible, but we're not going to bring it up. We're not going to talk about it. Bob Stoops had to step down just to get rid of Mike Stoops. All right. Josh asks a question. Do you see DeMarco moving on in the future, or staying on and moving into an offensive coordinator role if Levy ever leaves? So usually to be an offensive coordinator, you have to you usually have to be a coordinator in different positions. So you have to do it in multiple positions. So usually you'd be like a running backs coach, wide receivers coach, or you're a wide receivers coach and a quarterback coach or something like that. Honestly, I think DeMarco is great what he does. I don't think he really needs to, or maybe he doesn't really want to. You got to think about it. Some of these guys, they're happy and content with what they're doing. DeMarco's got plenty of money. He's not doing it for the money, so he's not going to take, I don't think he's doing it for the money. I don't think he's going to take an increase in a role because he can make more money being an offensive coordinator over the running back coach. So, yeah, I think if Levy leaves, offensive coordinator-wise, you'll either see Brent go out there and make an external hire and try to make a splash, or Joe John Finley maybe, or yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think you'd have to go outside of the program to really find. Matt Wells. Oh yeah, and Seth Luttrell's coming on board. Yeah, both of those guys would potentially be options now for the job. I don't know why I was blanking on those guys. Matt Wells and Seth Luttrell. Those guys would, I think, definitely be up for that offensive coordinator. And Seth Luttrell, I think, would go really well with you guys. I think you guys would love that guy. Patterson was in burnout mode. Yes, Patterson was in burnout mode. Washed as a coordinator. Yeah, I think Patterson's probably towards the end of his coaching cycle. Then again, I think we all thought that with Mac Brown, and well, Mac Brown's coaching at UNC, and look at how that's going. Beat him, Bo could. You know what? I I don't think Beatonbow wants to be the offensive coordinator. I think he's making himself a good living developing these offensive linemen to go be in the NFL and win Super Bowls. Because he's had what four offensive linemen now win Super Bowls. Lane Johnson. Wait, has Trent Williams won a Super Bowl? Has Trent Williams won a Super Bowl? I think Trent Williams has won a Super Bowl. And then you have Creed Humphrey and now Orlando Brown. So OU offensive linemen taking Super Bowls home, bringing those rings to Norman. I want to see rings on their fingers during the spring games, or at least pretend rings, so that they can go out there and recruit these offensive linemen for us. Which, by the way, guys, offensive line for Oklahoma in 2024, woo! It could be so good. It could be so good. Oh boy. Yeah, if we can get Grant Bricks, I really like that. Casey Poe. Listen, you guys know I talk to Casey Poe a lot. We've had him here on the podcast. And he's actually going to come back on later once he gets his schools narrowed down, which is coming up. And so I really like him. I really like him to end up as a Sooner. Take that for what it's worth. Let's see here. I don't know if OU lands Daniel Cruz. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. But they're actually, let me pull it up, because there are a couple guys that I sent over to Jay that I actually talked about in my recruiting breakdown of what I think is going to happen, that I think you guys really need to keep an eye out for. So since I've got a bunch of you guys here, we're just going to talk about it. Let me pull it up. Offensive lineman. Weston Davis. Right now, he's not ranked in the 247 composite, but 6'4", 285 pounds. Getting a lot of looks from a lot of programs: Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M, kind of just to name a couple of them. I haven't talked to him yet, but I'm trying to get in contact with him, trying to get synced up. So Weston Davis, Weston Davis. So if you guys haven't already, you need to go look him up. Additionally, you guys potentially could be looking at Max Anderson on that offensive line as well. That'd be pretty big for Oklahoma. So Andrew Sprague, Liam Andrews, Caden Massey is another guy that you guys need to be looking at, paying attention to, hitting the follow for. I would expect Oklahoma to kind of target him as well. Caden Massey is from the Kansas area. He's from Linden, Kansas, not ranked in the composite. He's got Kansas State on his tail, Nebraska, Iowa State, Kansas. So, the usual teams in that area. He's actually ranked as a 3-star by the 247 rankings. Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Minnesota. So he's got a couple good offers in there, definitely from all Power 5 schools. 6'8", 260 pounds, 6'8". So, yeah. OU's got some offensive lineman options, some offensive linemen that you guys need to be looking out for. So let's see what's going out here. Oh, we got Trap House Boomin in the chat. I've seen him a couple times in other people's. How you doing? Taylor Tatum will be in town this weekend. Okay, has that been confirmed? Because I actually hadn't seen that confirmed yet. So that's why I did not have him on that list. Big Trap doesn't suggest Patterson to USC, sore subject. Okay, Hank, listen. How many times do I got to tell you? We ain't going to talk about Lincoln Riley getting a defensive coordinator. Nobody likes Lincoln Riley, okay? Listen, nobody likes Tebow, and we're going to let Tebow continue to have Alex Grinch out there, who actually, guys, listen, I really thought Alex Grinch was starting to turn a corner, and then, he has to go out there and start all over, potentially lose Damani Jackson and Cavante Henry. So we'll kind of have to keep an eye on that and see if those two might enter the portal during the spring portal. What's Seth's job title? It's going to be an offensive analyst at some point. Probably going to be an analyst to the offensive coordinator or something like that. Sammy Brown, what do you think? Love the mullet. OU or Texas had Quinn Ewers. I guess we would get Sammy Brown. No, in all seriousness, I think OU did they officially announce that was going to be an official, or was it just going to be an unofficial visit? Regardless, I think OU gets the official from Sammy Brown. Gosh, though, it's going to be hard to take him from Clemson. He's got a really good relationship with Dabo. I actually don't think he lands at Georgia. In my class predictions, I actually have him landing at Clemson and not Georgia. So I think it would be hard, but Venables has a really good track record of taking the best linebackers in the class and getting whatever linebacker he wants. So, yeah, I mean, Sammy Brown, I mean, if you had to give Oklahoma a chance, would you say 20-80? So 20% chance you get him, 80% chance he goes somewhere else. If I had to take a guess, again, I haven't really talked to Sammy Brown. That one's going to be a harder one for me to get connected on just because I'm not a national recruiting guy. But it would be awesome for OU to land a 5-star linebacker. I mean, Sammy Brown could come in and start day one. You love him. I mean, he's got all the intangibles of what you want. I think a kid about the Boz. Yeah, I mean, you've seen him post about the Boz, right? And wearing the number 44 when he's here. So, Venables got Kanak, who reminds me of Brown, maybe a little bit. I could see that a little bit. Except Sammy Brown knows how to play linebacker, so no shots there, Jared. Just Sammy Brown knows how to play linebacker. So, but on that note, we're at the top. Well, 50 minutes, so almost at the top of the hour, and the little girl's crying over here. So, who's Clemson's linebacker coach? You know, I should know this off the top of my head because Drew Woodaz and I were talking about it earlier because we were in our interview with him. We were talking about Venables recruitment and the guy who. So hold on, I'm pulling it up right here. Wes Goodwin at Clemson. Let's see who Wes has gotten. Okay, so Wes is actually a decent recruiter. In his top 5 guys he's ever gotten as a recruiter. He's the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Clemson. He's gotten all-time commits: Peter Woods, 5-star defensive lineman; Vic Burley, 4-star defensive lineman; 4-star defensive lineman Stephen Green, Jamal Anderson, 4-star linebacker; and TJ Dudley, 4-star linebacker. Don't see any others that really stick out to me. I mean, he's got kind of a he also was recruiting Khalil Barnes too, which Oklahoma was in that race late with Clemson and Notre Dame, and so yeah, I mean he's definitely, he can go out there and recruit. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in the top 1 or top 300, so or top 250, however you want to break it down. So Wes Goodwin can recruit for Clemson out there. At least Venables is willing to recruit against Dabo now, right? I mean, he was willing to recruit against Dabo anyways. He just wasn't going to take commits, and he wasn't going to take, which I don't think he was going to take commits. He just wasn't going to take players from him, which I completely get. That's how Lincoln Riley should have been. Caleb Williams wanted to leave. Great. Hey, you ain't coming to USC. That's how it should have been. I think Venables did the right way, regardless of what people think. You know, what goes around comes around, and it hit us. We didn't like it, and Clemson fans wouldn't like it either. Read where it's Clemson, Georgia, OU, and Brown. Okay, yeah, I get that it's Clemson, Georgia, and OU for Brown. My deal is Dabo Swinney has a really good relationship with Sammy. Sammy's been out there a bit. Now, I get it. Clemson's closer to him. I think it's within 100 miles. And Georgia's, you know, obviously a lot closer. So you'd expect him to be able to visit those places. Guys, I'm just not going to put my chips in a bucket. My heart's been broken too many times. And for a 5-star linebacker to come to the University of Oklahoma, I mean, who was the last person to do that? Clayton Smith? No, Clayton Smith wasn't even a 5-star, really. Was it Buki? That was the 5-star? So, yeah, I mean, I'm not counting on it. It would be awesome. I would love it. I'm here for it. And definitely, you know, we're going to follow the recruitment all the way through. I just personally don't see OU landing a 5-star linebacker this early. If I mean, realistically, if you land a Sammy Brown, that means this class potentially looks like David Stone, Nigel Smith, Williams Winery, Sammy Brown, and what you're probably going to get. I mean, would you get a 5-star on the offense? Like maybe Micah Hudson? So either way, you're getting 4 or 5 stars right there. Because I know Nigel's not a 5-star right now, but I believe Nigel will be a 5-star by the end of the cycle. Nigel Smith on the defensive line. So, Yeah, I mean, that would be one turnaround. No, Josh, Kenneth Murray was not a 5-star. Kenneth Murray was a 3-star. And I don't even think I mean, I could look it up real quick just to check, but I'm like 90% sure that Kenneth Murray was a 3-star out of high school. Um, yeah, he was a 3-star, ranked number 434 nationally. So in the 2017 class out of Missouri City, Texas. Tim Kish and Calvin Thibodeau. So yeah, no, but Kenneth Murray ended up being one great linebacker. So technically Buki. Yeah, I think Buki was. Um, look it up here. Yeah, but so yeah, Buki. Actually, no, Buki was according to the 247 composite a 4-star. So to be honest with you, I have absolutely no idea who that 5th-star was. It might have been Clayton Smith. I didn't think it was. I thought Clayton Smith was a 4-star in the composite rankings. So yeah, I mean, it would be great. I mean, it really would. If OU goes out there and lands Sammy Brown, this program's different. It really is going into the SEC. So how did Buki do over in Washington? By the way, didn't really keep up. I mean, he was Buki. He ended up going tried the NFL. I think he was on a practice squad for a while. Now he's an analyst with Riley over at USC. So obviously he didn't really make it in the NFL, which it's hard for a lot of people to. Ashton Woods. Are you asking about if OU is going to land Ashton Woods? 3-star linebacker. Arkansas, Baylor, Louisville, Kentucky, K-State, Nebraska, Oklahoma, USC, Tennessee. Okay, this kid's picking up some offers. Yeah, it's someone that you could potentially look at. I think OU probably lands Drew Woodaz. And if you take Sammy Brown, those are probably your 2 linebackers at that point. Well, no, because you got Peyton Pierce too. And I'm sure the staff will probably take Peyton Pierce. Caleb Kelly was the last 5-star. Thank you, Weston. See, I knew somebody had it. Yeah, it was Caleb Kelly was the last 5-star. No, Jimmy, actually, Jalen Redmond, he was a 5-star at one point. But he did not end the 247 composite rankings as a 5-star. Again, I will double check just to make sure. Yeah, Jalen Redmond was, according to the 247 composite, the 135th ranked player in that class. And looks like we got a new follow on the Twitterverse. You guys will find this one interesting. Yeah, we'll have to get that kid on for an interview. No, in terms of the 247 rankings, he was a 5-star, but I go by composite rankings, and he was a 4-star in the composite rankings. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to look at it as 247 rankings, OU landed a 5-star, but consensusly, he was not a 5-star. So you're old enough to be drinking beer while talking football with us. Guys, I have to work tomorrow. I can't be drinking beer. How about this? We're actually going to start live streaming on Sundays. So that's actually pretty exciting. It's something that I thought about kind of when I'm going to actually do like a show and have interaction with you guys. And I actually want to have some of you guys on. So, definitely hit me up in the DMs on Twitter if you're interested. Because I'd love to have some of you guys on to do the show with me. It's a lot more fun if you got someone to talk to. But listen, I got to work tomorrow. I'm in cells, so I'm going to drink a Dr. Pepper, and I'm not going to drink a beer. All right. And who the hell and how the hell is Pookie a 4 or a 5-star? Listen, you know what? If Pookie would have been in the right in the right team, in the right coaching, I think he would have been better. Put him in Alabama. I think the kid would have been, an incredible player. He followed Alex Grinch. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna go be an analyst out there. I agree with you. No more. Why wouldn't those guys get together on say, let's all go to OU and become the best defense OU has ever seen? I don't know. Maybe. Listen, I'm pretty sure we think that's a great idea. We have that conversation in our head, but yeah, these guys. At the end of the day, I mean, all the 5-stars can come here in the world. But they're not going to do that because they want to be able to start. They want to be able to, if you stack that room too deep, kind of like what's going on with Georgia right now, kids are going to enter the portal because they're not going to get an opportunity to play. Because at some point or another, yes, you are a really good player, but there is just elite level talent in that room too, and it makes it harder for you to see the field. So you got to have a happy medium. You got to have guys that know their roles. And so when you have a bunch of 5-stars in those rooms, I don't think that really works out very well. Who is most hated, Riley or Durant? Ooh, okay. I'm actually a Kevin Durant fan. And that's just because I don't believe the Thunder were going to be what they were without Kevin Durant. So for that reason, like, I get it. Kevin Durant made a business move. So I would say Lincoln Riley. Also because Kevin Durant did not take Russell Westbrook with him to Golden State. He at least left us Russell Westbrook. And left us relevant for a little bit. Lincoln Riley straight up turned this program over overnight. So I'm going to say Lincoln Riley. I love how y'all said Riley too. Yeah, Schooner Nate, we'd love to have you on. 2 or 3 linebackers transfer out after the season. Oh, okay, Dominic, that's interesting. So your linebacker room right now looks like Shane Witter, Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis, Jaron Kanak, Danny Stutzman, Samuel Omosigo, Lewis Carter, Phil Picciotti. Yeah, the linebacker room has a lot of depth right now. Who are you thinking transfers out? I'm curious who you think is going to transfer out because Danny's probably going to start this year. None go to NFL after the season. I think Danny could, but Danny would have to win the butt kiss or have a butt kiss type season to go to the NFL. If he doesn't have a butt kiss type season, he returns. But if he goes out there and wins the butt kiss, yeah, I could totally see him going to the NFL. Well, Dominic, that's not true because I think Shane Witter probably won't play a whole lot, but I don't think he transfers again. I don't think he's going to enter the portal. Anyone else feeling that Dion hype may not play out as well? There's a chance, but look at what Dion was able to do down there at Jackson State with lesser talent, right? I really like some of the pieces that they got through the transfer portal. Jordan Dominic, the defensive end from Arkansas, Georgia Tech. The guy is a dude. So, and then they got Demoy Kennedy, who Charles Kelly brought into Alabama, and Charles Kelly's an elite recruiter. And they've got elite recruiters up and down that staff. Nick Williams, Charles Kelly. You have Tim Brewster, which for those of you who don't know, Dalvin Cook, Jalen Ramsey, Kyle Pitts, some of those guys. Just throw out a few. So Dion is getting way too many good coaches and players to not do well eventually. Yes. And here's the thing. If Dion goes, here's what I don't think people understand. If Dion goes out there this season and starts like 3-0 or whatever, loses to Oregon, but maybe beats USC, which, guys, it's a possibility. And maybe they end this season with like 7 or 8 wins. And no recruit on this team is safe, or any team. Like, Dion going to come after full hellbound to get people's recruits if that happens. So it's in everybody's best interest for Dion to stay under bowl eligibility this season, because if he turns it, like, let's say Jordan Dominic and some of these guys really turn around to go to the draft and they do really well, so you've shown development and you've shown you can win on the field, yeah, it's going to be a problem on the recruiting trail. I don't care that Colorado's not in the SEC. Dion is attracting attention left and right. And Dion, the Colorado, is like the biggest college football phenomenon I think we've seen in a long time. I believe, I 100% agree with you, or agree with you, Billy. So, interesting thing about Oklahoma is, and if you guys follow Jerry Schmidt, anytime that he's been to a program, it takes him about year 2, and you really start to see a shift in that program in terms of the strength and conditioning. So I think, one, that's going to play a factor into both the offense and the defense doing better this season. And then you're going to have guys like Danny Stutzman having a whole nother off season, really learning and getting to sit down with Venables, and learning this playbook. So I think that's going to help you out right there. Having guys that are more experienced and more tenured. So, and then on the offensive side of the ball, you've got Dylan Gabriel returning for another year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. You know, I think a lot of people forget Dylan had a left clavicle fracture at UCF, came to Oklahoma, trying to shake some rust off. It's some of the first ball he's played in a while, and then gets a concussion. So it's kind of like, you know, he just had everything working against him. And then not to mention all these wide receivers are trying to learn a new, more complicated playbook. And, you know, I think you're just going to see a better overall team. And you kind of saw it, right? At points and times, you started to see this team really start to feel like they were turning a corner. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma will just be a better team in general. Like I said, I think Oklahoma has to win 10 games this season, 9 or 10 games, because the schedule is just that easy. Outside of Texas, I really don't think you can afford any losses. Maybe BYU on the road. Definitely no losses at home. OU fans aren't going to put up with that. So we need O-line depth. Okay, yes. So this is something that I talked about in my video talking about my offensive line predictions. Going into the SEC, you almost need to have 2 sets of starting offensive linemen. And it's not something that I think we have right now. Logan Howard. Wait, is it Logan Howard? Logan Brown? The offensive lineman from last class. He's going to be really good. Remember, he's only just started playing offensive line. You got Caden Green. Caden Green, I think, will be a starter as of next year. You got Jacob Sexton out there. Logan Howland. Yes, thank you. And then you've got Heath Ozida. You've got Joshua Bates for the center position, that's really key and crucial. I think we've kind of been missing that since Creed left. And then in this next class, right, you know, I've talked about it, and I'll pull back up the predictions again. I think you land Casey Poe, Liam Andrews, Andrew Spag, and then Willie Goodacre, who actually doesn't have an offer right now, but he's the 6'5", 300-pound defensive lineman out of Denton Guyer. And then you're still in the running for Caden Massey, Max Anderson, Grant Bricks, Daniel Cruz, Harrison Utley, and Weston Davis. So, and then not to mention Oklahoma took a bunch of PWOs as well on the offensive line. So the depth will be there. Now you just got to get talented depth that can actually start for you. So you can pretty much have your 2 sets of offensive linemen. So Dylan was pretty good the last 2 games. Yeah, and I think you started to see the team kind of pick it up. I mean, you still saw overthrows or things like that. You know, I think a lot of it was players weren't in the right position, like wide receivers were not in the right position. And that's kind of why you saw a lot of those overthrows. I believe Danny Stutzman is going to be an updated. I don't know why you guys don't like David Agwebu. I really don't. Deshaun White and I were actually talking to each other back and forth in the DMs about this. And we're still trying to get him on the show maybe after he gets through the NFL draft and everything, Deshaun White. And we're going to talk about that because we didn't understand the Agwebu hate. I'll be honest. Agwebu got shredded the most the season. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. Agwebu was playing out of position. He's a defensive end. He's not a linebacker. And so I want people to realize that. Like, he was not playing in the right position. He was really helping us out because we didn't have the depth. And so I mean, I think Agwebu is going to go out there and shine for the University of Houston, still playing in the Big 12. You know, he was the second leading tackler on the team. So, and the thing is, the kid was smart, right? Go back and watch some film. Go back and watch some of those games. Some of those linebackers were actually asking David Agwebu, hey, where do I need to be at? You know, he was trying to place them. So, yeah, that's something that you guys definitely need to keep in mind. You know, David Agwebu was really good. And if he would have been on the, if he would have switched to the defensive end, which I think is kind of why he transferred out, he didn't want to. I think, you know, you would have seen a completely different player this season. So yeah, wide receiver had drops too. Yes, Dominic, I agree with you. Wide receivers had drops. I think it was because the wide receivers weren't in the right spots. And I think, again, that comes from learning a new offensive system, one that's complicated, a little bit more complicated than Lincoln Riley's. So who will be the first defensive line commit? Ooh, Man, Weston, that is a. I'm not gonna lie, that's a good one. That's a hard one because there's a lot of really good defensive linemen in this class. A lot that Oklahoma's looking at. I think it's Nigel Smith. I think it's Nigel Smith because I think the David Stone commitment, it goes on maybe a little bit longer than you guys want. So Nigel Smith, that's who I'm going to go with. That's who I think is the first defensive line commit. However, there is a kid that you guys need to be paying attention to on the defensive line. Again, not highly rated, but look at some of the guys like Ashton Sanders, Marcus Strong, some of those guys that came in late. There's a kid out of Locust Grove, Georgia. Oklahoma is his first big offer outside of Pitt. 6'1", 270-pound out of Luella High School. Tyler Moore, defensive lineman. We offered him back on February 9th of 2022. So he's held an Oklahoma offer for a while. This kid, guys, I think could be interesting. So he could be a dark horse for Oklahoma. Tyler Moore. Go look him up in the 247. Let's hide this comment. Okay, not hate, but Stutzman had a higher ceiling. Yeah, I know, Hank, I get that. Stutzman did have a higher ceiling. But that's not to take away from what Aguebu did. Aguebu did a really good job. Actual commit or no, I think Nigel Smith actually commits. I really think he's going to end up being a Sooner. Now, I don't think it's going to be right out of this month. I think Nigel Smith probably doesn't commit till June. He just dropped his top 16 here on the podcast, and he'll probably continue to drop more. I think we'll probably have him when he gets his. We'll have him back on when he gets his official visits lined out. We'll announce those. Please, David Stone, please. Yes, listen, David Stone, I think, will be an Oklahoma Sooner. Let him get through the summer. Let him take his official visits. You're probably going to see Ohio State. Actually, call me crazy, and I know you guys will freak out if this happens. David Stone doesn't take an official to Oklahoma. Why would he need to? Use that official on another school and get wined and dined there, because he's been to Oklahoma so many times. Now, yes, Oklahoma probably formally gets that official visit. But it would not shock me if Oklahoma did not get the official, because, he's been here so many times and he wants to go use that official somewhere else, right? Just get wined and dined and everything else. So Nigel Smith, I think, is waiting until August. Okay, Topher. Okay, you're really pushing that one out there. No, I think Nigel Smith tries to wrap this up quickly, just because, let's just say hypothetically you land Williams Nwaneri and David Stone. All of a sudden, that need to commit on the defensive line for Oklahoma becomes quick, because you're not going to be going to get very many people or very many more people at that point. If this staff is recruiting them, they are talented. Let's be real. Yes. And, how many times has Brent Venables found diamonds in the rough and turned them into NFL prospects? So, or at least gotten them to the draft, right? He's done his job. David, you transferred because his playing time was going to dip. Going to the defensive end with how talented that room is. Yeah, his playing time could have gotten diminished. Also, I don't think he really wanted to play the defensive end position. So I think he wanted to be a linebacker. And honestly, you can imagine, only 1 year left. You got to stick with the position that you're in. Switching to another position could be hard. It's taking a risk. So is a early signing day commit. I think David Stone actually commits earlier than that. I think David Stone probably tries to wrap this up before the football season. Also, Gentry Williams 918 love about to be a problem on the opposite side of Makari Vickers. Future looks bright. Yes. This defensive backfield for Oklahoma just looks insane. Because remember, you got Jaden Rowe back there too, and Robert Spears Jennings. So, and Makari Vickers, Peyton Bowen in this class. You've got starting D-line week 1. Oh my gosh, guys, why are you doing this to me? Isaiah Coe, Am I going with projections too of like who I think gets moved into the interior? Because I'm gonna go Isaiah Coe, Rondell Bothroyd, Jacob Lacey, Jonah Laulu. I think those are your three. And if we roll out a 4-man front or a 5-man front, because I just give you a 4. If we roll out a 5-man front, Derek LeBlanc. I think Derek LeBlanc is on the starting defensive line. Bothroyd, Mason, Downs, Co. We also got Ty Cole and Ty Clean Lumen out of Miami visiting. Yes, the Lumen brothers. That's interesting. I think you guys heard Parker talk about it. They're kind of a package deal. So if you take both, all of a sudden that defensive line class really starts to potentially get a little full pretty quickly. I moved Downs inside. Yeah, I could see you moving Downs inside. Grayson Halton. Yeah. The thing is, there are guys that have a lot of potential in those rooms that could do well. I think Jonah Laulu gets to start at the defensive end. I think Jonah Laulu is going to have a big season. So, and then you got PJ Adebore, who I think will start or not start, get minutes. I don't think he will start though. And then you're going to have Ethan Downs right now. I think he's still at the defense, and we'll see if they switch him inside. And then you've got our Mason Thomas as well. So what do you mean David is switching to defensive end at Houston? He's going to be behind the 8 ball. Scooter Nate, has that been confirmed? Because I haven't seen that. I thought he was transferring out as a linebacker. But, I mean, regardless, if he would have been a defensive end here at Oklahoma, that room would have been insanely deep. It would have been hard for him to get, I think, ahead of that. Now, if maybe he was a little bit faster, because David Agwebu was not the fastest. Maybe he could have played that cheetah role. Trace Ford is going to be a big contributor, which Smitty building him up. Yeah, I think Trace Ford could potentially get on that defensive line. But I think there's some other elite guys that maybe get the start. I think you're going to see a lot of rotation this year, a lot more rotation. Our defense is borderline elite. Just got to show it as a unit. Derek, I don't know if I'd go that far yet. I'll believe the defensive line is elite when I see it. When I see a dog trying to get under the desk here. I'll believe that the defense is elite when I see it. Talking about D-line, how much does RSJ play? Okay. If you're talking about D-line, but how much? So Robert Spears Jennings, I don't think he gets to start till next year. I don't think he gets to start till next year. Personally, I just think that room's too deep right now, which is a good problem to have. But I think Robert Spears Jennings will get playing time. I don't think that's a doubt. He will get playing time. And you got to remember, a lot of these safeties and these corners can be interchanged. They can switch a lot. So, okay, guys. Yeah, I haven't really kept up with Agwebu after he switched. So if he's got it on his timeline, or his Twitter timeline, yeah, he's got it on there. I just haven't kept up with him. So I thought he was transferring out as a linebacker. So if you guys say he's transferring as a defensive end, I'll take your word for it. I just feel like that's a mistake, because if you're switching positions and you've only got 1 year left, right, that puts you behind the 8 ball in terms of getting some film out there for the NFL scouts. So you're going to have a really good year, I think, in my opinion. And I don't know, though. Maybe those NFL scouts can play linebacker or defensive end. That makes him more of a high commodity. I have no idea. Jonah will get the down spot, and R. Mason will be opposite. Man, you guys are sold on Ethan Downs not being a defensive end this year. I'm going to the interior. I like the D line, best line talent-wise in several years. I mean, yes, I agree with you. This defensive line is talented. Enough to not want to transfer. Starting DBs. Billy Bowman, for sure. Woody Washington. Key Lawrence. Kendall Dolby. Your linebackers. I think Danny Stutzman, Jaron Kanak, Dason McCullough. And then, yeah. Well, Dason or Reggie Pearson, depending on who you're playing. I think those two are interchangeable because some days you might need Reggie Pearson to drop back, and sometimes you might need Dason to go up front. So I think it's just going to depend on who you're playing. Not with Bowman, Lawrence, and Harrington. Harrington, I think, is a backup cheetah. Harrington's a backup cheetah, I think. But I don't think he gets a start. Not over Dason or Reggie Pearson. Because Reggie Pearson's a starter. He didn't come and leave his position here at Texas Tech to not be a starter here at Oklahoma. I'm pumped for yes. I 100% agree with this comment. I'm pumped for Isaiah Coe year 2 as well. Me as well. I agree with this. So, all right, guys. I think this is a good stopping point tonight. We're an hour and 20 minutes in, and it's 10:20. So some of y'all need to go to bed because I'm sure some of y'all got work. I got work tomorrow. I got a sales job. But hey, listen, if you guys haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe button. Jump down in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are about the show. Jump over to those interviews, guys. Watch those. Please watch them all the way through. Don't just, watch a little bit of them and click off. We need that full user retention, guys. We need you to watch some of these ads so that we can continue to pay these players to get them back on the podcast. We're going to try to work our way up to some of these bigger guys as well. So we're going to continue to try to bring you guys some more of these Sooner players and their content. So go over there, watch those, like them, subscribe to them, drop in the comments below what, questions you want me to ask the players on new interviews, and I will make sure to put those in my list to ask them. But listen, good night, everybody. And we'll be live again on Sunday too, so y'all can pull up Sunday.